We set everything on fire. We save many intermediate steps.
The patch fixes the bug. The patch creates another bug. The patch to fix the patch breaks a critical feature. The feature was never secure to begin with. Deploy, repeat, burn it all down. Write the code, ship the code, break the code. Somewhere in production, a memory overload. Roll back too late, now it's in the wild. 0 days laughing while the logs pile high. Update your drivers, update your OS. Whoops, now the network is broken.
Welcome everyone to another evening newscast here. Long time no see. It's been a while since we've done that. Unfortunately, breaking news, Linux kernel controversy, soap opera, rage quit. Famous hacker Hector Martin, Macan42, rage quit maintaining Asahi Linux, Apple Silicon and the Linux kernel, as seen here on Linux kernel. Not a video I planned to make today. Actually, I scheduled a T2 town hall meeting, the state of the T2 union. Actually, no kidding, really wanted to make a YouTube video today. That was not on my bingo card. The whole thing makes me really sad. And I know both sides a bit. Spoiler, I even met Hector Martin once, maybe twice, at least once on Linux Talk, maybe once or 2-3 more times, Chaos Computer Club and stuff, right? So I know him a tiny little bit, maybe, I don't know if he remembers me. I know him from USB 3, from QEMU things in general. He has done a lot of things. He hacked the PS3. He was even sued for that. Apparently settled out of court or so. As seen on Wikipedia. So he reversed a lot of stuff. PS3, thanks for that again. Nintendo Wii, and PlayStation 4, Linux, and recently worked on the Asahi Apple Silicon. And also I know him a tiny little bit personally, tiniest bit. I just wanted to before people later point out. But anyway, I'm not even the most really on his side here. I have to say I'm really sorry, Hector, Marcan. I find this really unprofessional, and I understand your rage. I understand your disappointment, but that is highly unprofessional. I have to say, kind of basically a little bit career destroying, although he probably doesn't really care as hacker. He probably doesn't care the most about his career. So my advice to everyone out there, boys and girls, little Padawans, ladies and gentlemen, don't rage quit like this. Don't. By the way, I hope you noticed, I toned like a year ago. I was much more negatively outspoken here when I don't like stuff. I actually, New Year resolution, even I myself need to work on myself and work on myself, and hopefully much more neutrally and positive or otherwise. In this case, so I totally understand where he's coming from, because the problem is they do some things in Rust, not on PS3, on Nintendo Wii, but like for the Apple Silicon, they've eaten the Rust pill and have fallen in love with Rust. Something I personally have not done. So I'm here between the sides. Some people might call me biased, or I don't know, but it's basically my neutral professional opinion. And I'm saying this with I'm also not a C guy. I'm basically totally neutral. I mean, my opinion is, as far as I see me, I'm extremely neutral here on this reporting. I see where he's coming from. I've been there. I've done that for 20 years. Yes, with C++, I wanted always to have safer code already 20 freaking years ago. I said, let's do stuff safer with some aids, right? Like you can do with C++. And most people didn't want to hear it, didn't want to listen. Now the latest greatest is Rust. The only problem is I personally also don't fall the most in love with Rust for all my previous videos, right? And so what happened here is that, and I find the whole thing extremely unprofessional. And as seen, I was considering, I'm also not here for the clickbait, right? I was considering making a video here on January the 8th or stuff, or maybe whenever that year was, or January the 18th or so, here when Rust was called cancer, in one of those tweets here somewhere. Because what happened is actually not even directly Macan related. What happened is that some Linux kernel developer said, like, I really don't want Rust code here in my subsystem. If I would find that here somewhere. And somewhere he called it cancer. Not other people, he called just Rust cancer. And some people find this heavy wording. One of those, I could have prepared better. This like gazillions of emails. What does even Greg Kynes say? It's not the case. Point is above was tooling issue. People missed API changes. In one of those emails, he said he considers spreading Rust through C code like cancer or so. One of these codes wherever. The thing is, so that is if this loads here, calling here, look at that. So the problem is, you can disagree on a technical level, right? So it was not even about his personal Rust code, although it's of course it is a little bit related to their work, Asahi Linux work of making the Linux kernel Rust. And so this is the email here, as you see here, Linux kernel on January 20. I was considering this, but I'm busy and I'm not after the most clickbait and stuff. But now it's a big issue. Let's quickly talk about this, right? So he next is here. Christoph Helwig, also very decade-long time, as long as I, maybe longer, 30 year probably, as far as I remember. I remember seeing this name for decades, so well-known, respected Linux kernel developer and subsystem maintainer. And so explicitly negged here, not acknowledged. And I also do not want another maintainer, like on his subsystem code. Like no, I don't want someone sitting next to me of hacking Rust stuff. If you want to make Linux impossible to maintain due to cross-language code base on that is your driver, so that you have to do it instead of spreading this cancer to core subsystems. So this caused quite some controversy. How dare you call our shiny, pretty Rust code cancer? And there you see that I'm not alone with my previous videos. So I'm totally here in the middle between all of those seats, because I also call Rust previous video. I called it previously an toxic wasteland ecosystem. So that were my strong words. Politically correct, not calling it cancer. But I have to say, as much media outrage as this word cancer, I mean, in my opinion, cancer is a relatively valid word for this, right? It's spreading this like other foreign cells through your C code base, right? And he didn't call anyone an asshole. He didn't curse. He just technically someone. And also like he didn't first start with like whatnot. It's all started with no, I'm not. This was since there hasn't been a reply so far. I assume that we're good with was like modern stuff. Thank you very much. Modern stuff reloading. Not particularly amazing web experience here. So just saying like now I don't agree. So initially it started with no Rust code in kernel DMA, please. He even said please. He didn't say cancer. Initially he said no Rust code in kernel DMA, please. And then it's like continuing like what you said, even suggestion, right? Like it started as totally normal discussions, like nah, I don't like that the most, please not here. Keep the wrappers, like the Rust wrappers, in your code instead of making life painful for others, like myself maintaining my DMA code. Because apparently Christoph Helwig, like myself, is like, nah, not the most readable. So am I an outliner with this hipster language stuff of the latest and greatest invention since sliced bread? It's like, no, other people have the same technical arguments like myself, like it makes wrappers, bindings complicated. Why should I maintain other people's language bindings? And even other people previously suggested, even the last year, like, hey, maybe we should make the Linux kernel more C++, which I actually would fully agree, like slide step by step, a little bit converting to a little bit safer code and stuff. Yeah. Yes, interfaces with DMA API should stay in readable C code. So am I the only one who is crazy? No, apparently surrounded by other idiots. And what the Rust people would call C idiots. I'm not even a C guy, right? I'm a more C++. I embrace 20 languages, right? I tried 20 languages out. I mean, not even talking Perl, which I didn't like the most. Like I work with Swift. Assembler, D. Like I tried D before Rust was cool, right? I've seen a lot of languages, right? I'm not fluent in them. The usual in the media, a new language, you read some article, you try some Hello World, it's like or some Hello Lord, You try some hello words at Prince Lord. Fine. I've seen things. I'm usually not the most impressed, especially in T2. Fun fact, spoiler, I maintain my whole Linux distribution for 25 years. And if it's hard to package, like Julia language and other things, it's like, if I can barely package it, then maybe it's not the language for myself. But I digress. So long discussions of like back and forth. And then at the end, it's like, no, I really don't like, I maybe can click some random emails, can't answer for Linus, sorry, but generic, hey, this is broke your code working to chamber, something much faster. So like, there was some discussion, right? And then Hector, unfortunately, this new social media things, which I historically stayed quite out of in general of this flame wars. I never like I found this, like when I was young and naive, I found this, like, what is the best editor? It's like, I just kept most out of most things. Only the last years I tried a little bit YouTube journalistic reporting thing and shouting out bugs. And I understand when I shouted out, I mean, of course, my previous YouTube videos were also at times a little bit negative. When I spent here 8 hours that nobody pays me of 4-year-old regressions that nobody fixed, and then I make a YouTube video like, look at this stuff, like 4 years broken, nobody tests this stuff. I'm re-evaluating my own media broadcasting way here and wording and stuff. I understand, and so I understand everything, right? I've been there, I've done that, I was frustrated and stuff. But nonetheless, I find the whole thing here highly unnecessary. Like it makes me sad, and it is so superfluous. And I understand he can have. I have a bad day. I mean, hey, even today I had a bad day. But look at that. At the end of the day, I had a bad day, and I still make here a relatively neutral YouTube video, right? And people have a bad day, but just quitting like this is really unprofessional. And of course, he has a right to quit. Like it's like. After this emails, like there were other emails, you can read the whole thread, right? You can make your own picture. All right. So eventually, also like he had here, there was, yeah. So other people chimed in. It's like, yeah, maybe you make a little bit too much negative social media stuff and so on, and like can concentrate on technical things. And then Mark Carney wrote like, he's tired of everything. Like myself. Like, hey, I'm also tired, but. First of all, I took a 10-year desktop Linux sabbatical, outage here of KDE GNOME, everything broken, like YOLO, okay, whatever. Can use macOS for 10 years. But I'm back to T2 Linux now, rocking Hyperland here, okay, right, everything is amazing. Maybe sometimes people need to take some time off, and that is okay, right? I took some desktop Linux time off for 10 years. I regretted it. I'm back now, much more amazing. Now desktop Linux is more amazing than Mac and Windows. Everything is good now. He's tired. I mean, I understand. He's tired. Like, that is also underloved, underpaid and stuff. Although I have to say, this is not the best service for his community because he is quite a bit funded, right? Like, I had here somewhere, I hope I pre-opened this. All right, some of the stuff didn't work. So he is more well funded than I am, right? With T2 Linux, we, for 20 years, barely get any donations. Only the last year with YouTube and Twitch we got some donations, and he has 1,100 something. So I have not hidden. I get $220 per month by Patreon, right? Which is not enough. Which is why I'm making these YouTube and Twitch videos. I obviously also need funding. I hope he is funded. I don't know because he doesn't publish. I publish, but I hope it's $2,000. I'm random number. I hope for him it's 2,000, maybe more. I have no idea. Maybe if he would do this more professionally, he would even get more. But for those people who regularly donate for maybe 2 or 3 years for having their Apple Silicon working, I find this, I would be really disappointing. I did not donate because I didn't want to finance Apple Silicon with my hard-earned money, for which I need to make so many YouTube and Twitch live streams. But everyone theirs, right? But if I would be an Apple Silicon fan and would have supported Hector for years, with hundreds or more dollars, I would be really disappointed, right? In my opinion, that is why I mean, this is really not how you're doing it, right? This is really unprofessional. This is really, I mean, maybe he regrets it already. I don't know. Like I don't know him that closely. I've met him once or twice in person, right? I barely know him. I have no idea, right? I mean, obviously he writes he's tired, but I'm only saying that's pro tip, that is not how you're doing it, right? Basically pro tip, how to do it better. By the way, he could have just, maybe I should summarize. The thing with that is, so basically he's tired and disappointed. They say, the Asahi people say, they were fighting this uphill battle of bringing Rust in the Linux kernel, and they accuse here, as you can see here, so basically their accusations are tired of seeing important contributors and maintainers give up, throwing toll of like just like him, right? Hostility towards. I mean, there was not really that much hostility, right? In my opinion, Linus Torvalds even says, "Hey, your patches have been often fast-tracked, right?" Because spoiler, Linus Torvalds at times, even my understanding, is using an Apple Silicon MacBook Air, whatnot, or whatever he's currently using. So Linus Torvalds had an interest of fast-tracking their Asahi Linux Apple Silicon patches, right? They're tired of getting messages privately and publicly. I don't know their private messages, but public, of all kinds of people saying won't touch Linux kernel 10 food poll. I mean, sure, I also complained about the Linux kernel a little bit of like, you send one-liners at with a why. Yes, I'm also stupid. I'm also human. Even though I even used Emacs, I use an old technology email client like Emacs specifically to send patches because I thought I'm a professional. I play here I cosplay here a professional, and because I the last 10 years used Apple macOS. 20 years ago I used Xemacs Mu, the text email client, and Xemacs. Now I use, if I'm working on Linux, I use Mu on Emacs because I don't support Xemacs anymore. I thought like from 10 years ago it was white space clean, but apparently 2024, like last year, Emacs Mu also mangles up white spaces and patches, like just the one use case I use that for, but thank you very much. I'm also tired of this, right? But like I'm also not pretending to do a living of maintaining Apple Silicon Asahi Linux, right? Tired of seeing, but I would also say it became better. I would also say this discussion mostly wasn't like this. This discussion mostly was like, hey, I don't like Rust bindings in my thing. And no, I don't want I don't want another maintainer next to me maintaining Rust bindings in my DMA subsystems, right? Like this, in my opinion, like prove me wrong. If you disagree, comment below, read the thread, make your own picture. Seeing people away with words like cancer. I mean, but this is really, I commented on Phoronix, as I sometimes do a little bit, clickbaiting and stuff. Maybe I shouldn't. This is really soft skin, right? Nobody called you cancer. Nobody called someone else cancer. They called Rust bindings between C code cancer or Rust code. And I don't even read it. I again, as I said 10 minutes ago, this is technically quite accurate, right? I could say the same if I have a C++ project and someone, or I would have Rust people would basically the same, right? If there's imagine the other way around. You have Redux OS and someone wants to bring C code in there. And actually the kernel developers have recently quite started to embrace Rust. Like, it's not like they're saying, no Rust in this kernel. Actually, it's the opposite. They start to use Rust, which I don't, like basically, that is what I mean. I'm in between here. I'm quite neutral in between. I don't like Rust I have to use Rust, as seen here often with Firefox. Like, I see this code breaking. I see this compiler not being amazing. Just the other day, just this weekend, like last weekend, live on Twitch, I wasted an hour debugging debugging source code of like not building Firefox Rust code. Like in the meantime, I weekly debug some Rust nonsense, and I have to say often it is more nonsense than C++. It's harder to read than C++. It's often, that is the disconnect of the Rust people that somehow take too many red or blue pills. I don't know which of those of the matrix they take. They, in my opinion, Rust people, and that is completely neutral. I don't mean it badly. I'm saying, in my opinion, many Rust people are trapped in a reality distortion field, similar to Apple fanboys, that somehow are blinded of only seeing the good things of Apple macOS Silicon and their Rust compiler, and not the bad things, because they claim the error messages are better. I find the compiler diagnostics often are worse. Often the compiler tells me that it doesn't compile and stuff. In my experience, the last years, C++ compilers tell me much more precisely what's going on. There's often type doesn't match there and stuff, and then but not where it's coming from. Like often I spent like 15 minutes in Firefox code figuring out where this code even comes from. But anyway, so I've been there, done that, I've seen different things. Sure, C is not amazing, but Rust is not amazing. And they also need to understand they bring Rust code. Like it's their choice, right? The Linux kernel was C for 30 years, and now they think they've eaten the new hipster pill, the new Rust pill. They find they fall in love with the Rust. That is okay, and they bring it to the Linux kernel, and the Linux kernel people is like, yeah, okay, there are some good things. Like let's maybe start using it a little bit, and then they complain that it's not integrated so fast enough in the way they want, right? And I'm anyway a little bit disappointed that I have one M1 Max Apple Silicon. And I tried to build this, right? I could not once get this to build. Sure, I spent 1 hour here, 1 hour there. The fun fact is the Rust code always is so incompatible. Earlier, like last year, I was just corrected on Phoronix because like usually the last years, always when I wanted to use 3D on Apple Silicon, and that is also still not upstream, right? And in my opinion, I'm also a little bit disappointed that their Asahi Linux AGX Apple Silicon 3D stuff is not upstream. At least the last time I looked, some last month, I guess it's still not upstream. And like last year, I couldn't never get it to build because it always required an 6 months or 4 months old Rust compiler. And I, of course, usually have the latest Rust compiler. Plus then always the language binding stuff broke. And in general, in my opinion, building is also really annoying and error prone, right? For the Rust compiler, you need to also have, for the Linux kernel Rust integration, at least last year, some month ago, the last time I tried it, you had to git clone the Rust standard library and have the Git standard library build the memory allocation stuff and so on, built within the Linux kernel build for having the Rust, because the Rust code otherwise is user space, so that is why they need to customly build the Rust standard library or memory allocation detailed things for in kernel code, right? So I not once got it to work. I once was close. Sure, if I wanted, of course I could have gotten to work, but the fact is, when I mess around with this stuff, so people always think, yeah, I'm a genius and get everything to work. Sure, usually I get everything to work, but as I'm also tired, like 25 years doing this, like if you need to git clone this, you need this old compiler and stuff. Like eventually, half an hour later, it's like, dude, this stuff is too stupid. rm-rf, right? I have better things to do than trying to get. So not once have I seen 3D acceleration like that is their amazing code, right? I was corrected on Phoronix today because I said exactly that in the Phoronix forum, and someone commented like that's not the case. Apparently, currently you can build the Rust code, and yes, I've seen that. But the last time I wanted to try this was 6.10, whenever 6.10 was, like maybe in October, I don't know, like basically 4, 5, 6 months ago. And the last time I also couldn't get it to work. Because it wasn't fully upstream. Like, so the last time in the news, like, hey, now you can use a new Rust compiler, but then it was Linux Next, and that didn't apply, and this and that. And plus always, then, even when I got the right versions, then once I debugged this stuff until I realized, like, I usually, like, cursed error messages and stuff, like this type, that type, this, and then you Google, you research, you ask your Discord and stuff, and then other amazing Rust people on Discord, but yeah, you know that the C-bind gen stuff broke some details last month. It's like, no, how should I know, right? So I had to use, like, once when I was close to getting a work, I would have to use last month's C-bind gen, the C-binding gen. There's C-bind gen for C-binding generation and bind gen Rust or Rust bind gen for Rust binding. Like, one is auto-generating bindings from C code for Rust, and the other is auto-generating Rust bindings, Rust code to C code. So both ways, vice versa. And like constantly this code broke, right? And that is the reality, right? I'm not making this stuff up. I also would wish it would just build, and also it doubles the compile time, right? Like currently there's nearly no code in the Linux kernel. So if I build on my workstation a still last gens Ryzen 7950X overclocked, undervolted, PBO'd, and stuff, memory overclocked, 96 gigs of memory, my relatively beefy workstation can build all modular Linux kernel in 4 minutes with GCC. If I do LVM Clang LTO, then it's already 8 minutes, like basically doubling this with potentially maybe a little bit of better optimization stuff. But adding Rust, it's like another 8, like basically doubling the compile time and currently there's nearly no Rust code. So And that is the fastest workstation. So you can get a 9950X, which I'm still saving for. Shall I can subscribe? You can also get a Threadripper, which I don't have money for because I'm an open source developer. And you can get an Epic Slack. But if you build the Rust standard library and gen stuff like some minute here, some minute there at the end, then you build the Linux kernel in 10 minutes, in 12, in 20 minutes, depending on, because Rust is, have you seen Rust code, right? Each time I build Rust code, Firefox, in the meantime, of course, I daily build Rust code. So basically, long story short, Rust, sparkling a little bit of Rust code into Linux kernel, like doubling the compile time, right? Instead of 8 minutes then with LVM Clang, then you 10 minutes, 12 minutes, whatnot, for tiniest little bit of Rust code, right? So he's tired of everything. And so being tired is fine. Like, basically also, like, hey, I try to be so much nicer with everyone. If you have not noticed. Especially after being swatted. Let's all be nice to each other, right? And, like, hear a lot of complaints. And some are not very valid, in my opinion, right? Like, complaining, like, not accepting code fast enough and so on, like, like, there's a lot of Rust API stuff in the Linux kernel already, right? Like, stuff is moving, like, stuff is getting in. Also, like, maybe you should have every patch season send stuff upstream of, like, here's some Rust stuff, there's some Rust stuff. Tired having spent hours of days time upstream simple things, because even simplest changes, bike shed things, cling format, before tool, nitpicking, but also, I think a lot of the stuff is being a lone developer, a lone wolf developer between working in a big team, right? Like, this is the same in companies. If you work at Apple, Google, Exact, right? IBM, if you are not working alone, you have to deal with 10 other people. I mean, this is also life, right? I think a lot of these people, I mean, sure, there are a lot of factors here, like myself, like Makan, like Linus Torvalds. Everyone thinks they're the smartest, although I'm actually not thinking I'm the smartest. But Linus thinks he's the smartest, Makan thinks he's the smartest. And even I make mistakes, right? Like, I even have a whole YouTube community. I make literally basic typos, especially since I got a new keyboard. I even make more basic typos, and even I'm not the smartest, right? I'm just humble, normal developer guy developing stuff here, right? But I'm also not arguing like this. I'm sometimes getting a little bit depressed when there are bugs for 4 years, and like when I need to 4 years, like, look at GCC. I had to ping for 4 years to get a one-line patch in there. So that's not ideal, but that's also not the case here, right? Apple Silicon is only 4 years old. Anyway, long story short, I think this is really a lot of complaining about nothing. I think the Asahi Linux people got a lot of good faith preferred handling here. The Linux kernel, I actually have other things with Linux kernel. Like, in my opinion, they should not delete a little bit older drivers. Like, okay, just put it away. They should not. They should, in general, accept. The one main point I agree with. They should accept stuff faster, or in my opinion, they should even apply. Should they have staging now for 10 years or whatnot? Because a lot of SBC stuff. I sorted too much stuff here. I've literally, my desk is so clean. That's the problem with clean desk. You have no illustration purposes things. A lot of cheap embedded board things like Rockchip, Sci-Fi, other stuff, things are not fast enough upstream. In my opinion, yes, the one thing they should, in my opinion, even if there should be a little bit less nitpicking and they should, like, if it's not breaking their code, but like some small board computer chip thing applied faster and polish it more entry, in my opinion. But this is, but my biggest problem is of like this is just rage quit, like, just don't do it. And so I would naturally not even want to make this soap opera video here about this nothing, but my understanding is it is on Foronix already, right? It will be on all big presses, so let's discuss it here too, right? So that's basically the summary. And I'm actually agreeing. I also make this video to come to the point that, so every week someone asks me now on Discord, on YouTube comments, what do I think about Rust in the Linux kernel? And I basically said it before. I'm not impressed with Rust, with the Rust compiler, with the Rust ecosystem. I recently made the mistake of line of code counting and size counting the Rust compiler, and the whole Rust compiler just the Rust compiler and its micro dependencies is 4 freaking gigabyte, right? In my opinion, sure, this includes LVM, this includes 500 or so micro dependencies, because some they also build 7 times or so. Not impressed. Like CC, their CC micro dependency, I think they built 12 times. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, just go to the Rust compiler, right? Rust is also not, in my opinion, I agree with Christian. I think it's Christian Helvig, right? I agree that it's not the most readable language. Christoph Helvig. In my opinion, it's really not. And I'm used to a lot of stuff. I'm even used to daily regular expression match and stuff, right? In my opinion, for a state of the art language, Rust could have been designed more readable. It does not click with my brain, and a lot of things, like even assembler clicks with my brain. Rust is, and I'm used to C++ templates, right? Like, yeah, apparently other people also have the problem. Plus, it is so annoying to build that it's, yeah. The other thing is, speaking of this annoying to build, you could say, yeah, just keep that old last month's Rust compiler. The problem with that is, of course, I naturally want the latest Rust compiler because I want the latest bug fixes, the latest features. Also, I need the latest Rust compiler for Firefox and stuff. Sure, maybe it became better, fine. But the next thing is, in the future, it will be extremely horrible, if not impossible, to bisect things, right? Like recently, even we found here, like Shellac and Subscribe, we found 2 years ago, we found it up to 2000%, not kidding, better FS performance regression as shouted out on Foronix. We regularly find the other regressions like SCSI, Fiber Channel, Spark and stuff, previous videos, PowerPC. And I regularly need to bisect stuff, meaning an old version 4 years ago worked, and somewhere in between the last 4 years something broke, like Fiber Channel and Spark and stuff. And then you need to bisect this, right? Like if you have this in the future Rust code in between, which always only builds with one Snowflake compiler from last month, and good luck bisecting this stuff, right? Because if you bisect like a year or 2 years, or God forbid 4 years then, and every time like, yeah, other different Rust features, stuff doesn't build anymore, or see and bind. Sure, you can also say, in the future, they make this finally stable and don't touch it anymore. But I'm only telling you the last years, Rust kernel code constantly did not build for me, right? So, yeah. Also, like moving along with the glacial pace. And I'm a little bit, I'm really sorry to say this. This is somehow a little bit elitish, spoiled snowflake behavior here from Makan. Because you could also say this to Asahi Linux, right? I'm to this day waiting like, hey, Hector, where is upstream AGX code, right? And recently, and that's true, I'm not paying for this. They are not obliged to do it, but they pretend to be the big Asahi Linux people. They have funding for that. All I'm telling you, to this day, my MacBook M1 Max probably turns 3 years old, or turns 3 years old already, something of that sort. To this day, I have not seen, sure, if I desperately wanted to, I could get it to work, but I'm only saying it's not upstream. Also, display Thunderbolt. And sure, it's a hell of a lot of work, but blaming others for glacial pace moving code, it's like, yeah, it's like maybe there's a problem on other. But yeah, I mean, it's also Apple's fault. I'm not even blaming Makan here, but I'm not blaming them to reverse engineer this faster. They reversed PS3, they reversed V, PS4, this Apple Silicon. They did amazing work. I don't want to ridicule or minimize the work. They did amazing work. I initially expected, I remember when Apple Silicon was new, and I said 3 years ago, don't buy it. It takes easily 10 years to get mostly working reverse engineered. Hector Martin proved me wrong, because I did not expect that one of the reverse engineering gods that Hector Makan 42 Martin is took on that. Of course, they get stuff relatively okayish working in a year, which is absolutely amazing. So basically, my initial expectation of 10 years, of course, was divided by 10x engineers. So yes, it only takes a handful of 10x engineers to divide my 10-year expectations of like 1 year. But of course, M3 was never done. M4, so like basically it's also like only the early Apple Silicon work is in there, right? But that's also what I meant with like, it takes 10 years to have the stuff halfway working, and 3 years in we don't have 3D and other stuff upstream. And recently he even said, the funny thing is now he deleted his social media profile. This is adding it to the unprofessionalism. To don't quit like this, right? Like, don't, like, kids, boys and girls, don't flame war all editors and operating systems, languages deserve some love and have some place in this world. And that is what I don't understand. Like maybe he has other things in his life. That is totally fine, but then maybe don't rage quit and delete. Like in my opinion, this is really a little bit childish of just deleting all your social media. That is really like first being the most outspoken, just like myself, of everything sucks, just like we say here, but then delete all this stuff because like, nah, social media drama. I mean, Linus here, before that, Linus Torvalds also said here, the next email to this, that maybe the problem is also on the other side. One thing I wanted to, I mean, in my opinion, this is also quite hostile, right? This is this modern whataboutism when yourself also contribute to this, right? At least I have never written such emails, I believe, to any of such projects. I just don't contribute there, right? I just do my two things, and basically, if they break upstream, they break upstream. It's not my department, right? Like basically, I let the well-financed Linux Foundation do the Linux kernel. I learned 20 years ago. That's not fun, but that's fine. I mean, maybe you could say I agree with Hector, but I also disagree with many of the other things here. I think much more professional from him would be to, I mean, yeah, spoiler, not do this. Like basically take a day off, and basically in the pro tip, if you are disappointed, if you have a depression, if you are tired, get some sleep. Sleep over it, get some day off, get a week off, walk through the park, cuddle your cat, go for a walk with your dog, play with your kids. Like, hey, look at me, a new self, 2025 New Year resolution. Just chill a bit, man. Do some yoga, do some meditation, drink a tea, and everything looks much better after that. Because he quite, I mean, because first of all, he quite ruined his reputation now, right? Like in my opinion, you can say, yeah, but it's Linux kernel people fault. In this case, I would not say no, but also this should not ruin. I mean, so in a way, it's highly unprofessional and kindish and childish and stuff, but this should also be forgotten. I hope he comes back. I mean, he will probably continue some reverse engineering, but I mean, maybe he stops for the month. I don't know, but he probably can't stop. Also, maybe he just turns to something else like PS5 or so. I don't know. But he also should just, if he wants to come back, this should also be forgiven, right? Like you can have a bad day. We should all, as I said, we should all be nice to each other and also forgive, right? Like just come back as like, yeah, sorry, I had to blow some steam off. Like I was just disappointed. Like here's some patches, right? Like I hope, like, please. And one thing I wanted to say here, though, is here was somewhere regressions. And so that is here from all kinds of, this is actually 10 foot pull what I was reading, Baroque regressive process. And I would say stuff in Firefox and Rust is also constantly broken, right? And also your Asahi, like say the person who recently just the other week broke his M1N1 mini bootloader hypervisor thing, right? Like, so how dare he says regressive process when just the other day they bricked their Asahi Linux M2 support things and users installations, right? Which is, shit can happen. We're all humans. I also brick stuff, but don't blame other for regressive process when even your Rust binding stuff, in my experience, I've never got to work, right? Sure, apparently some people got it to work. Maybe it's easier now. Probably, I always probably was unlucky and got the combination of like the least combination always went. But that's also maybe an indication of how fragile it is. If Rust people tell me, no, it works, but each time I tried it, it didn't. Like, I can't be that unlucky to always, I mean, maybe I was that unlucky to always have the most broken state of the month or so, but also which is his most focused. Anyway, so this Linus Torvalds answered, I mean, in my opinion, Linus Torvalds even answered relatively, how about you accept the fact that maybe the problem is you? You think you know better, but the current process works? I mean, I mostly have to agree with Linus. And this is a relatively okay answer from Linus, right? He didn't say you're an idiot, whatnot. He says, how about you accept the fact that maybe the problem is you? You think you know better? Like and that's probably a 10x. Like probably the tone in Linux kernel is that rough because they're all 10x engineers. Maybe, or they all think they're 10x engineers, or maybe they don't think they're 10x engineers, but they at least think they're very good or the best or among the best, whatever. And then it's like, then you have the heated discussions. Everyone thinks they are right and they're the only right and the best and stuff. And then you have the heated discussions, which maybe we should all get off of. However, if I will say that the social media brigading just makes me not want having anything to do all with your approach, which also I think, yeah, because he deleted this, I need to hear. So this was one of those here. Behold, Linux kernel maintainer openly admitting to attempting to sabotage the entire Rust for Linux project. And by the way, this is also, so that is his post, right? Like one of his. He has, of course, many, including the announcement that they broke their mini bootloader thing. But so edit for Reddit, peanut gallery is a reason for sabotaging the entire Rust for Linux project. DMA abstraction critical for 99% of the drivers without them project. But you can still have it in your Rust library, right? Like if he doesn't want to have it in the subsystem, make it like then agree. And that's the thing. Like just agree and negotiate to have the Rust for Linux DMA abstraction in top level Rust DMA. Make what is the technical problem? And that is diplomat, right? And that is management decisions and senior dev meetings and stuff, which that basically is on Linux kernel. Like, what stops you to have all the bindings, as much as I hate them myself, in top-level Rust and then subsystem name and then bindings? Nobody said nobody said there will not be Rust in Linux kernel. On the contrary, they started it. There is, and there is more, and it was only about not having it in the DMA subsystem. He didn't even say, you're not doing this in Rust. They only said, please do it in your driver. And if multiple drivers share this, what stops you to propose, like instead of social media shit posting and rage quitting, why not propose to have all the API bindings living in Rust/subsystem? And so also I said always for years when I ask, so I also don't like this. In my opinion, this will be a complex mess. In my opinion, the Linux kernel is already super complex, and just converting it to Rust will not make it less complex. On the contrary, it will only make it more complex. And even the Rust code will often have quite some unsafe statements, so like safer. I mean, the Linux kernel is relatively reviewed, just like OpenBSD and stuff. Like just rewriting everything in Rust does not solve all the bugs, only some memory safety bugs. For all the reasons, in my opinion, it will be quite a mess and also often not compiling thing in the future. And I always said for years, my stance always was, I'm not the super most thrilled about that because, I mean, and that is, sure, I'm not a Linux core developer. I did 25 years Linux things. I daily do here. Like, I even disagree with Linus Torvalds. Like, Linus Torvalds himself, previous video, deleted console scrollback, one of the most essential features for many developers. I recently brought this back. They delete upstream Itanium, we bring it back. Like, do I social media shit post that? Like, there was more social media negativity about Itanium on Phoronix and Tom's Hardware than we just bring it back, right? Just do it. Just show me the code. Just do the stuff and don't like. Sure, I also nitpick in between. It's like, yeah, a little bit low quality engineering of just deleting all this stuff and like a little bit joking of like, hey, you add their Nintendo 64, which is older and has no technical usable purpose. You merge a Nintendo 64 N64 patch, but you delete Itanium, which was sold until 3 years ago, and every bank and insurance has in its basement. Strange things, but. Yeah. Personally, I would consider grounds for. So that is, I found this, and that is why I nearly wanted to make a video previously. I find this really offensive from Hector, and that is this modern new developers. This I later remember the good word for that. So I'm not English native here. But I found this quite offensive. Personally, I would consider the grounds for removal of Christoph from Linux project on code of conduct violation. Like, this is this new, snowflake, spoiled. What is this? What is the best English word for that? There must be a better word. People of always code of conduct. Like you, he did not call you cancer. He did not. This is not even an F word or an A word. It's just like, sure, it's a C word, but like, come on. Like, you can't be such a baby of like, he said a C word. It's like, come on. Like, it's spreading foreign code through the kernel. It's like you. Like, also this modern, like, this probably there are the comments. I probably should read the comments. Whatever. But this is like basically what he does here is, and I did not like it the day he posted this, and I didn't even make a video because I'm not after clickbait here. This is this modern cancel culture, in my opinion. So nobody, as far as I know, canceled Macan. But for just a C word, and that C word is only cancer, he calls here to cancel a decade-long maintainer of like just saying, I don't like this Rust API code in my subsystem. Like, do your Rust binding somewhere else, please. And he even said, please. And like the cancel culture is probably like the best word for that. In my opinion, this is not particularly friendly, right? Like this modern cancel culture of like my way or the highway, my way or code of conduct. In general, this code of conduct is like I find this a strange concept. Like, we need a code of conduct to be reasonable, humanly nice to each other. But sadly, adopt much will happen. It's like, for what? For like saying, I don't want Rust bindings in my subsystem. Like, this is, in my opinion, and that is what many of these people who claim cancel culture often are actually the opposite of. In my opinion, this is cancel culture. Not productive. As I said, I said 5 minutes ago, a proposal to have Rust AP binding somewhere else, like some directory subtree and stuff. Like, what is the problem with that, right? Did I finish my sentence from my thought from 5 minutes ago when I wanted to say I had 4 years this stance, and I'm not even the most in love with Linux kernel. Sure, I'm a little bit biased. I have a Linux distribution, but hey, I'm also not super happy with Linux kernel development process, which is also, I made the mental decision 20 years ago. I'm not getting into this. In my opinion, it became friendlier and stuff, but also I have other things to do. I have a Linux distribution to run. And that is fine. But it is also fine that he quits. He is not paid for that except for its Patreons. Do you still probably have that? This is a little bit of a conflict of interest in my opinion. Also, I clicked this wrong because like my mouse, like, yeah. So basically, he is paid to do that by his Patreons. Yeah. And of course, he's fine to say like, okay, not. It's like, but the whole process leaves quite a sour taste here, in my opinion. Was there anything else I wanted to say to this? So that's basically the summary. And so my stance, did I the second time not finish a sentence? My stance for the longest time was I always digress. So even when I was young and naive, when I came to the Linux kernel around the year 2000, I was like, this should be C++, right? In the year 2000, it should be safer, like young and naive, it should be safer. And I decided, okay, like when I was a student, I decided, okay, this kind of code quality engineering is not for me. I'm not really doing this. I'm doing my Linux distribution, I'm doing my things. I sometimes do some patches and stuff. And I didn't enter this. Macan did PS3, Nintendo V, PS4. He knew it's C, and yet they desperately need Rust. So they made their decision to do Rust. And my stance was, leave the Linux, as much as I don't like it, it is C now. Leave the Linux kernel C. If you want to do something in Rust, that is fine. Do Redux OS, right? Like you do yours, you do your Rust do your Rust OS. Nothing. I even called out previous video 3 years ago, say on the Moment channel, is Linux killing OS innovation, right? I said 3 years ago, probably even before there was Redux OS, maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago, I said, is Linux killing OS innovation, and that everyone only does their Dragon-themed or otherwise colorful and slightly different named Linux distribution instead of a whole OS. And I applaud and appreciate Solaire's Redux OS, right? Like I said long time ago, long before everyone, do more true OS innovation again, and not just Dragon-themed Linux distribution. And I think this would be better for everyone. It would make a better Rust kernel, and would make, instead of wasting the time, because it's honestly, it's quite a waste of time doing all the Rust API bindings and having to deal with this mix of languages. It's wasteful in time, in resources, in runtime and compile time overhead, and basically, and maybe Rust is so much better that Redux OS will be the better project in the end. Nothing wrong with that, right? So that's my stance for the longest time. Do Rust things in Rust projects and do C things in C projects, and do not mix everyone, because I quite agree with Christoph Helwig's Rust cancer API bridging stuff, spreading the whole, making a mess out of everything and hard to read and stuff. However, I will say Linus Torvalds, that's social media, because if we have issues in the Linux kernel model, then social media sure as hell isn't the solution. I also previously criticized Phoronix always for, I have the impression, I'm generally not the super most impressed with Phoronix for various reasons. And in my opinion, Phoronix is a search engine optimization, and Tom's Hardware and others taking over Phoronix stories, and Michael, how his pronunciation precisely is. Lara Bell, I believe, of Phoronix is, in my opinion, for a decade quite drumming the social media as a Linux kernel. I said for the longest time, I don't like the wording of the articles. It's often quite clickbaity, over-dramatizing, and probably such. That's also not good journalism. That's also not a good news site. A news site should be neutral, and not always like, there's always a lot of wording of old and deprecated and finally and other negative or wording and stuff. But anyway, technical patches and discussions matter. Social media brigading, no thank you. And that probably here left, and that is, in my opinion, this is not using an A word, not an F word, not a C word. In my opinion, that is a quite neutral, reasonable project manager reply of Linus Torvalds here. And one of those things probably led him here to quit. Maybe one of those. Not talking about individual technical problems. He has given enough practice, technical things, little effort, status quo, yada yada. Spoons, basically, they do everything. They do everything. Everyone is guilty, and now they were tired. Like probably of whatever precisely. I'm not in his brain. I don't know. I don't know which email of which was too much. But also, initially it was just, I don't want Rust bindings in my subsystem, and now it's here. Social media wording of like tired, enough, process sucks. It's like, dude, show me the patch, right? In my opinion, if they would have made more of an effort to get this upstream, AGX would already been upstream. It's probably mostly about the AGX stuff, because they need DRM bindings for Rust for their Apple, Asahi, Linux, AGX DRM driver. And it's cancer. It's, in my opinion, not even. It's again. But I guess I should check here the comments. What you think maybe is easier. It's of course probably quite a loaded thing. Let's see. So the problem is, okay, let's maybe go in through reverse order to otherwise it takes. What do you have here? Agree. What do we have here exactly? Great thing. Keep going with the conversation. Continuous upstream. Everyone writes kernel code modules. Like to see memory critical points as kernel, but I know folks don't fighting compilers don't like that idea. Return patches they have out of 3 ages now. That's great thing. Keep going. Well, conversation continues. Never get upstream, but writing kernel code modules. It's fine if you want to bring Rust. Thought website stuff. Feel like, what do we have here? Anything of substance? The problem is there are so many comments. There were multiple suggestions how I can better deal with comments, but I think it's better going quickly through this. Boring question: is kernel programming a good domain to get into? Working software engineer, consultant, wage slave. Which, if you work, in my opinion, like individual funding is extremely difficult. 20 years later, I still struggle. Not even a super thinker, super chat today, let alone a new member. And welcome everyone. He quit. So who Linux is deeply affected political numbers and professional acts done in the last years betrayed open. I mean, I don't even find it that political, right? In my opinion, this is wrong. It's not really political. Everyone can just contribute. It's just, I think it's big minds getting together, as I outlined 20 minutes ago. Like everyone thinks they're a 10x engineer and nobody understands each other, or nobody wants to hear an other's opinion or want to settle with some other solution. Comment there, think Rust can be better than C language, but when C language died, what do you mean when Rust? I mean, the thing is, I think I've seen a lot, and I honestly think, personally, in my experience, Rust is not the most readable language in syntax, and I'm not sure if so Rust for me clicks so not with my brain, and I like memory and type safety, that I'm not sure if we do ourselves a favor doing everything in Rust. I think there should be a much better language than Rust, and I think even the lower hanging fruit as proposed last year by similar developers like this would be to gradually convert the kernel a little bit safer Cs. I think this would be a better automatic checking and memory allocation things and resource freeing, the resource freeing and other C++ low hanging fruit things would, in my opinion, like I say, for 20 years, drastically improved Linux kernel code readability and things. And again, proves that Rust is so much better, but in my opinion, better doing it. But also, the problem is, of course, that you need to have, if you have some parts in Rust, like the Apple AGX driver, you need a very precisely matching working toolchain to build it, right? And sure, everything is possible, but then also like the future of Linux kernel only building in Docker containers because it needs so many cursed special Snowflake versions that you just need this specific like builds Linux kernel, but only with this set of Docker containers to have just the right toolings to make it build. Privileged. I think privileged is maybe kind of sort of the word. Yeah, so this is somehow, I think privileged is kind of like, remember when 10 minutes ago I was struggling to find the best matching word for this. Because a total IQ, setting developers getting burnt out. Yeah, and that is totally fine. My only, like my professional tip is like, my pro tip is don't rage quit like this. This is the only thing. I understand everything. Like I even have understanding of being disappointed and all of this stuff, but this is just simply not professional, right? Like with all my understanding of burnout and disappointment, just don't ruin your professional career and don't rage quit like this. Even if you're an underloved and underpaid, although in my opinion, quite paid, probably more than I ever have been. And I have not rage quit like this. Because we're just another kernel, nothing's kernel, it's a matter of validation. ASM, looking into Rust like this, was the future getting notification by Rust. Just getting the notification is so divisive on an issue in FOSS. Welcome, Anthony, if you're still here. Because basically, I think it has to do that probably what I experience, and I initially was open-minded coming from my C++ background of like, hey, better language than C++, let's go, right? I was like 8 years ago, let's go, and then I realized with all my professional experience and seeing this like daily, I was like, yo, that's somehow not really that good. And I think a lot of simply is people have like maybe half of the people. There's surely some people like Hector who love Rust, which is fine. And there's some people like myself, like, yeah, that doesn't really click. Like hard to read syntax, really cursed features, like absolutely horrible previous video toxic. So that's the thing. They call Linux toxic. I call the Rust micro dependency stuff toxic, right? Partially maybe old developers like Christian. Oh damn, I need to get better with names. Maybe some is like old developers not wanting to learn new languages. It's like they maintain Linux like it's their child, not Linus Torvalds, but Christoph Helvigs. Also, and like they just want to do C and not be bothered with Rust, which is also fair in my opinion. Although again, I'm not that old, I hope, not that gray yet, although Gandalf the Grey also ain't too bad, right? Grey and knowledgeable also, sought after things. I think it's just because it's complex and many people also like myself don't like the syntax the most. And it's their C project, right? And they even allow it, but the new people who want to play with Rust also simply, I think, partially also don't really want to follow their rules and expectations. Recently, because project was built Rust feature, which requires nightly compiler, do I have that requirement? Want to learn how to program? See how to program and wondering if I should C or C++. I mean, C++ is basically C with and then stuff on top mostly. Crossover simplification. So basically, if you want to start with C, I mean, then C++. But I mean, I would write nothing in C. C is really also. But that's the thing. I've never in my life. I've never started some substantial project from scratch in C. I always used at least C++. And yes, look at me. I'm old and naive and gray and stuff. And I, for the longest time, have used at least C++, right? Because I wanted to have conveniences like string things and classes and template abstraction and things and static and polymorphism and fully automated endianness conversion, other amazing great features. And basically, basically 25 years ago, I would not have recommended C. Back in that day, C++ was the best choice for me. Modern C++ is also not amazing. Given the problem is previously we had a dozen big languages. Now you have 1,000 big languages. And like, I even personally feel it's even more difficult than ever to choose. So basically, I guess you basically have the choice between C++, Rust, Zig, Go, but also like maybe scroll over all of them and decide for yourself what you like the most. Maybe that is a fair recommendation. Point is that glacial thinks that a point is glacial, and I think complaints about slow review cycles, fact that people will deliberately stall. I don't think they really deliberately stall. First, check out how OS common architecture, C primer, love flames. Yeah, wrong. Again, think advice, look for the advice, you know, OO, C++. Never trust thought occurs indoors, PC with classes. I just scroll over here to find any. Surprisingly, Duvy, Brick, M2 Mini, how? I say some bug. I don't know, they deleted there. And that's the thing, like how in this day and age, people think they're the most clever and then they delete in, I don't know, rage or shame or I don't even know what. That's also like, what point are they proving deleting all the social medias? And I can't even show you the tweet from the other day. I mean, sure, I could get all of that in through archive. Probably some bug, whatever bug, I don't know, like out of bounds or case switch wrong or whatnot. Whatever. Push the broken DDC calls DRM panic early on boot, basically fix very quickly. Yeah, but also there they also blamed C already. They're basically Hector Martin. Like, hey, I would show you the the toot thing. But as far as I remember, it's like there was even like he even wrote there like, yeah, maybe we should convert more Mini to Rust. There was even some like, yeah, we didn't consider it part of secure things and whatnot. It's like, yeah, but now after our bug, like basically they even had a bug in their Mini C code thing of like, and then they blamed, it's like, yeah, they blamed their copy and paste fat fingering bug thing there to like, yeah, with Rust it would not have happened. It's like, I think with Rust also bugs happen. It's like if you copy and paste stuff and clobber stuff, it's like. Anyway, is it impossible to get into OS development? Is it impossible to get into? No, why should it? Kampfpanzerwagen things. Of course, just get into this. Break because ignored read only bit on recovery partition. It wasn't until M4 had been disabled, breaking the machine boot process. Oh, really? So where are we? Halfway through. So just try to find here any reasonable, like if you have any reasonable feedback to the discussion, please leave me below. That's what I mean. People was like, even here in this chat, people's like, yeah, I should read the comments, this and that. It's like basically most are unimportant, although I appreciate all of them. That's why I was joking. I need a assistant. Basically, I need a moderating assistant of like, maybe they would be like either a higher assistant or a Discord friends and family copy and paste them in some Discord channel, but no. Concept Linux kernel problem, memory leaks, safety today. Do they have current state? What? Why is Rust proposed to be used in the first place? Yeah, because they of course there are bugs everywhere, even in Rust code. So proposed is like to in the future have more often better, safer code, right? And also they say they can write more correct code faster. Allegedly, the Asahi Lisa, whatever her precise name is, they claimed like they wrote the AGX code so much faster and nearly worked on the first try. Only one, it's like code so statically typed memory checked that only one small bug is fast. Like quote from my memory, right? Like correct me if I'm wrong. Rust, so common there must, because new kernel modules written vendors have been biggest case memory leak versus Rust. This is also not true, right? Like Rust would not directly mitigate this. If vendors still write code in C, then it's still C thing. Also, if the vendors would write in Rust, they can still sparkle unsafe all over the place. So like, in my opinion, Rust saves very little. Of course, everything helped. C++ would have already helped. In my opinion, Rust is also grossly over-advertised. But again, you don't need to make such a social shit show flame war out of this, right? And then rage quit for rage quit like a spoiled child. If I'm allowed to say it like this, in my opinion, this is a little bit my way or the highway. So like, do I just quit here? It's like I mean, in a company you could also quit. Like in a way, it is fair to quit. Just maybe not the most honest for your Patreons if you have quite some. If it would be some small hobby project, like some RGB driver stuff, but like rage quitting your whole Apple Silicon is so much more amazing, and we are the great reverse crew and do everything better, and then rage quitting like this is somehow not the best slide on your career and project. But this is surely also how people quit at Apple and Microsoft. Like, I just don't like all your discussions. Like, do your shit alone. It's like, do I go do something else? So just like this is in the open and maybe not done the most elegant. And especially leaving a bad mark in your Google search history of, basically, don't do that. Don't go over start. Don't collect this $4,000. Just like play Monopoly differently. That's fair, but see, very far from ASM. Saying there really nothing wrong with C++ things. If you think there's nothing wrong with C, they clearly haven't touched kernel code. Yeah, C is really not great. Like basically, C is great for nothing. C is not a good language. Like, do at least C++. It's so much every abstraction, strings, and proper classes, and other protected private members. Like, that is what I mean. Like templates. Like so many amazing things can be done with templates and other static polymorphism and other type safety, and it's already, in my opinion, C++ is already next level over C, as much as C people like to hurt us. And also, basically, write nothing in C. C should be, just because it's error prone. It's like even if every string things, like even starting with all the user string interactions things, like everything is better with higher level language than C. That is why I copied from others, people like I think one of those people familiar to this matter decades ago said C is a glorified portable assembler preprocessor, and I like this term and copied it since then, and this is how I actually like to That's basically what C is. C is a glorified portable assembler macro preprocessor. That's what C is, not more or less. And you should not write a kernel or, God forbid, absolutely don't write big code libraries and kernels like this. It's hilarious why. And I agree with the Rust people. That's the C. I'm quite neutral in the middle. I don't like C and I don't like Rust. And I master C on the 99 percentile Linus Torvalds like level, I would say. Just like I master it so well for 20 years that I wouldn't do anything as that. Like I can write code, I do touch code, but everything substantial, at least C++, right? And I said it before, user level code Lua, for example, like have stuff garbage collection, like basically have normal end user application logic, never segmentation fault or stuff. Neither in unsafe Rust code nor in C code. Comment there, new programming lang. You mean new different than Rust? So what do we have here more? Personally prefer to write code in Pascal. Seriously, it's much more secure than C in some cases, more performant. Do you see me shoving it into Linux? So please keep it. Okay. So that's what your argument. Yeah, totally agree. And all of the language has the point. Like if you like Pascal, use Pascal. If you like Rust, do Rust. If you want, like I think macOS was probably like the original Macintosh system stuff before macOS was probably mostly written in Pascal, I believe. I've never owned stuff like that or used stuff like this, but I believe it was Pascal. Like my point is, if you run the kernel in Pascal, write it in Pascal. But don't tell the Linux kernel people to convert their kernel to Pascal. To be fair, don't think they have been blind. They're doing a lot of work to address pain points veteran kernel devs have brought up, considering cave memory ordering, work on Rust C, saying things both sides have rabid toxic people urging their side, good ones actually researching. Thought on web dev stuff, you like want to build customer apps if they're less regarding it's even easier. Bring Rust to the Linux kernel, but if you live with the fact that it might take years until exactly. If you bring new stuff, also it needs to be mission critical, right? I mean, plus of course Rust does not support all architectures like Itanium or HPPA risk yet, or even others are partially broken. It's like good luck having stuff like 32-bit power PCs. Like, how dare you use it? It's still an embedded thing, right? Like, so for all the architectures in Linux, there's not even a Rust compiler for everything. Wide rules tend to do much actual thing. And how is Macan being an exception, of course? I mean, look at the real-time patches. Okay, I think I have been there. So what did I miss? Oh, there is a super cheers to politics and drummer and C and Rust 6. Thanks for the super chat. I only see this now. Appreciate any of those. Also, obviously, we need more love like that. So what did I miss in the comments? That is a thing. Made a module fork. So where am I? I think I was somewhere here. My attention lately have been Zig getting to 1.0. Might be a while before gets adopted. Yeah, I mean, that's the next thing, right? And then everyone falls in love with Zig, and then we rewrite all the Linux kernel Rust parts in Zig. Or, I mean, it's a mess. But basically, this is, the Bible. I'm not religious and stuff. Like, don't come with religious pitchforks. Like, religious, the beginning of all evil and stuff that might trigger people. It's just like keep religions out of everything. But there, anyway, from good old Bible stories, is Tower Babel thing. I believe they is it not where God penalties humans of languages, right? Like inventing, was it not? Common language age for speaking ancients, the story united human race speaking a single language, migrating to China, Lower Mesopotamia, where they agreed to build a great city with also the great city, the Linux kernel, as the languages of Rust and C and Rust with the tower that would reach the sky, like one OS to cover everything, right? Cool. Each other stuff modern, then they built it so high to reach God or whatnot. Is it not from similar story of, is it not here somewhere? Where is it like, and then was it not common language of fragmented God was concerned that humans had blasphemed by building the tower to avoid a second flood, and so God brought into existence multiple languages. This is, I'm not a religious person, don't come with religious pitchforks, but like this is so, how is that not matching this good old fashioned stone tablet Bible story things of like, so God saw the Linux kernel take over all of the precious world and stuff and reaching the sky. So he brought into existence multiple languages to ruin it all or stuff. It's like, I feel similar to humankind anyway. Like, can we not just all speak a common language? English, let's go. Linux kernel developers even contribute don't to forget point where can enter upstream or module. Your language is not conducted traditionally. Person bias, lack of knowledge, what even. Okay, not even. So what if may I find a link to, wait, what? Where can I find link? I mean, which one? This one? Sorry. So that is the rage quit. If I would find my mouse cursor, that is there. And is it not mostly visible? I thought it's not visible because 16 by 10 screen things of here is stuff plus minus give or take plus minus here of that sort. Child is weak, stuff totally agrees with you on it being elegant, really unfortunate because things jeopardize effort, Mark can't put learning curve. Let's celebrate first super on the live stream. Let's celebrate, yay. We do not wonder why people don't want to write oxide code. I really do not wonder why. I mean, for me, again, Rust is so much everywhere now that I at least once a week need to patch something minor, and I'm in general not coming away impressed by Rust, right? I'm not speaking without experience. I unfortunately have basically constantly see broken code experience in my Rust. CLI tools, good luck with Rust. You can make superb CLI, good luck doing that. Why? You can do, well, what is the problem doing superb C++ things? You can do totally finely superb C++ CLI tools. Free Pascal, Lua for the worst, exactly. Like, and I'm all for diversity. That's basically, now we have so many comments. Basically, I mean, maybe it would have been clever to actually live scroll the comments live on this chat. Maybe that would be clever. But people there pre-Mac OS was Pascal, yeah. Objective-C is a next step and Mac OS. And that's also not the Hulu OS. The Mac OS OS core is Mach kernel in the Mach microkernel, I believe, in C. And then the GNU stuff, the Xnode Unix, single address Unix stuff process is probably vastly C. And the IOKit drivers previously were in C++, so it's a mix of C, C++, and Objective-C. So the UI is Objective-C. Please replace your smoke alarm. Which smoke alarm batteries? Why do you say that? Not sure what smoke alarm batteries you mean. Issues have also like comments, longer comments, more precise. Have an issue more now that much different language making it harder to maintain compilers very pretty to issue have more. Why I don't like that much different languages makes it harder to maintain and now need exactly what I say, basically what I said, I didn't wait, you pull this, I am religious. That's fine. You can all be what you want. I totally don't care, just to be nice to each other and don't harm other people. And analogy from the current things. And yes, C needs a bit better, especially in terms of container types and stuff. And let's celebrate today. More kernel sabotage. Yes, why do you need? What do you mean by not impressed by Rust? Basically, rewind this live stream and watch my previous videos. Running Linux to PDF, that's not amazing. It's slow tech demo of nice hack. Mac OS X was not stolen from Next Steps. They purchased it with Steve Jobs for quite some hundred millions. So you can't call quite some hundred millions stolen. That's it basically for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, learned something. Let's see how many viewers did we. Quite a record stream. Don't forget to subscribe. Otherwise, we do here technical stuff. It's just like it's a breaking news, and I wanted to have this covered, especially my 2 cents of like, yeah, it's creating quite a hard to maintain thing, right? Otherwise, if you're new to this channel, we otherwise do low-level things, Linux distribution, constantly fix Linux kernel things, new drivers, like see the record-breaking video of watch me write a new kernel driver from scratch in 3 hours. As seen on my other channel, and otherwise we do quite some stuff daily on Twitch, where actually we could continue because I have actually some other code to do. So if you want to see me more live, you can come over to Twitch. We continue there for some nice T2 Linux things. Thanks for watching. If you watch this later, leave me the comments below. This, by the way, I'm live streaming this from T2 Linux, right? My desktop Linux sabbatical is over. I am back to T2 Linux. So last Linux distribution I probably should ever need before doing a microkernel, for which I probably also want to subscribe. Let's roll the outro. We have nice AI music. And if you watch this later, leave in the comments below your take and stuff, and pro tips for maintainers and stuff. And I hope they get the act together and forgive people, right? Like if they want to continue stuff, like it's a little bit, I mean, maybe he will not, but if he feels like in a week, and that's what I mean. Like he should have taken a holiday for a week, right? But anyway, it's just my 2 cents. Let's continue over on Twitch with some T2 things, Linux things, and have a good day or night. And I hope to see you soon for the next fun stuff to come.
In mass legacy stack, oh what a delight. Let's patch a 90s relic at 3 a.m. tonight. If we set everything on fire, we save many intermediate steps. No more regressions, no more patches, no more sleepless, stressed out wrecks. If we let the whole thing crash, we don't need another hotfix mess. Burn it down, call it an improvement request. TPM's exploits, firmware's a joke. Encryption's fine till the backdoor's invoked. Silicon flaws in the CPU's core, but hey, next quarter's profits need more. Clouds on fire, on-prem's a wreck. The hypervisor's leaking like a sieve on deck. Your IoT fridge just joined a botnet, but at least it can tell you how cold your milk gets. Reinstall, factory reset. Oh look, same bug, wanna bet. Ship it live, we're out of time. Oh well, we'll fix it in the next design. If we set everything on fire, we save many intermediate steps. No more regressions, no more patches, no more sleepless, stressed out wrecks. If we let the whole thing crash, we don't need another hotfix mess. Burn it down, call it an improvement request. Security advisory ignored. Responsible disclosure delayed. Vendor response, please upgrade. Support ticket closed, won't fix. System compromise, you have been pwned. Breakdown. It wasn't supposed to be this way. We dreamed in clean architectures, elegant stacks, but deadlines cut corners and progress cracked. Now we build on a foundation of zero trust faith. Knowing someday the whole thing will break. If we set everything on fire, we save many intermediate steps. No more regressions, no more patches, no more sleepless stress.